Hey everyone, welcome to today's Tundra tutorial on floating ball valves. The most common type of ball valve is by far the floating ball valve. You can see these absolutely anywhere, and the reason for that is because they're a very cost-effective and good sealing valve. Essentially, the way that they work is you have this ball right here that turns in order to allow or prevent flow. This ball is sandwiched in between thermoplastic seat carriers that are on either side. The reason that this is called a floating ball is right here in this groove is where the stem goes, and the stem supports the ball. But beyond that, there's nothing here on the bottom to support the bottom of the ball, so the ball actually floats. This ball will float upstream and downstream depending on where the process pressure is acting on the ball in order to push the ball into this seat face. By pushing the ball into the seat face, you're essentially creating your seal. But the one disadvantage of that is because this ball is floating and it typically floats into one seat face, it's moving away from the other seat face. Because it's moving away from the other seat face, this technically only has one positive form of isolation since you're only in contact with one seat face. The reason that these valves are so cost effective has a lot to do with these little seats right here. These seats are typically made out of thermoplastic and most usually done with just a plastic injection molding machine. These materials can be made out of Teflon like this, or it can be made out of nylon, Devlon, PEEK, reinforced glass-filled Teflon. There's lots of things that they can do. But more or less, they're just a plastic injection molded seat. The other thing that's important about these valves is the ball. So these balls, typically a 3/16 stainless, sometimes can also come in an A105 carbon steel in order to keep costs down. These balls are very cost effective to make, and sometimes you can also see them with a third hole in them. The reason that third hole exists is while you stroke your valve and you close it, sometimes you can get trapped fluid in here. That trapped fluid could be water and cause freezing, or that trapped fluid could be a light condensate and it could be flashing, wanting to turn into a gas, and causing a lot of internal cavity pressure. That third hole that is sometimes right here and perpendicular to the main process hole is there essentially to relieve that pressure in order to maintain the integrity of your valve. The only disadvantage of that though is when you have that hole there, this ball valve will become unidirectional and essentially it only seals in one direction. The next thing to talk about would be our bodies. So floating ball valves typically come in 3 bodies. Some people will say it'll come in a 4th body. First off, we have your threaded body right here. These are typically for 2-inch and under valves. These valves will come threaded for this piece right here, which threads on. And sometimes you'll find it with a seal weld in high pressure scenarios or for applications where there's a lot of vibratorial service. And the reason that it's seal welded is to make sure that those threads don't back off and your valve starts coming apart through all the vibrations. The second one would be this bolted body. This is a 3-piece bolted body floating ball valve. Great little valve, very economical. Typically you'll see these in 2-inch and under. For 2-inch and up, you'll see these guys right here. This is a 2-piece top entry body floating ball valve. These ones are great. Typically you'll see these from 2 to 8-inch. They can get bigger. You won't see them too much bigger than that. And also you'll see them typically class 150 to class 600. The reason you don't see higher pressures or bigger diameters for these valves is because the process pressure acts on the face of the valve right here, and it uses that process pressure to push the ball into this seat carrier. If you get too large of a diameter of a ball or you get too high pressure, the torque values get very high and almost become impossible to turn and stroke the valve. So typically once you get to those sizes or those pressures, you'll move over to a trunnion mounted style valve. As you can see, all these floating ball valves can come in a lot of different configurations and a lot of different materials. And essentially, we can trim them up in order to fit whatever your application is. In order to get more information on this, feel free to reach out to us and one of our valve specialists will contact you to make sure that we're getting you the best valve for your application. Thank you for watching Tundra Tutorials, and I hope you check out more of these. Have a great day.